Think back to Revenge of the Sith and Palpatine's proclamation of the First Galactic Empire. What did Padme say? Well, she said,
"So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause."
I'm John Barry, and let's actually take a deeper look at what she's saying there, or what George Lucas is saying. Now, people have criticized the prequel trilogy for being too political. People have criticized the sequel trilogy for being too political. You know what people haven't criticized for being too political? The original trilogy and the Clone Wars. But everyone who loves the Clone Wars talk about it being political as one of their favorite objects. And actually, let's talk about what it means to be political in Star Wars. Are you talking about being political as in directly commenting on what is going on in current politics? Or are we talking about politics in general? Well, we do get some of that both in Star Wars, you know. Clone Wars, it was political, but you couldn't really draw any real-world parallels. But for the prequel trilogy, I think people drew a lot of parallels to certain U.S. presidents, like Richard Nixon. And with the sequel trilogy, I don't think people are doing that kind of comparison as much, like to specific leaders, but how people see politics in the media has fundamentally changed. And politics in general, like just talking about a political issue is now seen as being political. And by that case, man, not political as the original trilogy was. You have a rebellion against an authoritarian regime. Oh wait, probably wasn't considered too political because, oh, you got an authoritarian regime and you got a bunch of freedom-loving rebels. No problem. Everyone supports. And then you get these changes up in the later films. In the prequel trilogy, well, you have the established government that's just going down a different path. Actually, I think more people were more like they were bored by the politics. And that's actually very understandable. But politics by nature, it can be very captivating, but it's also very boring. Like, if you ever want to fall asleep, just turn on C-SPAN. It should help you. It should cure you of your insomnia. That's why I've never watched C-SPAN, because I don't need help falling asleep. Actually, I do sometimes watch speeches and all that every now and then. I'll look up some footage. But Star Wars has always been political. Now, let's jump back to with Padme and Liberty dies. Oh, this is how democracy dies with Thunderous Applause. Basically, how democracy dies, it's not stolen from people. Like, a foreign invader does not come in and just take your democracy away. Like, oh, let's just use World War II as an example. Just because Nazi Germany took over France didn't mean liberty died in France. No, you had the French Resistance, you had Free France then by Charles de Gaulle. There were French people actively resisting this assumption of their democracy and replacing with an authoritarian regime. Then you have Vichy France. Well, it didn't die with democracy, didn't die with Thunderous Applause there, but the government was kind of just willing to let it happen. And kind of did. But that's the thing is, when democracy dies, it's not because somebody took it, it's because the people let it happen. That's what Padme was talking about there. The Republic died not because Palpatine declared an empire, not because all that stuff, not because the authoritarianism was creeping into the Republic, but it was because nobody stood up to it. Like, literally, she and Bail Organa, they were sitting in a Senate pod, and they were like, just watching all this. Neither of them clearly happy about it. And then you also had Mon Mothma, while she wasn't shown too much, but you know she was there, and from the later franchise, later material, and original trilogy, of course, we know what she thought. Like, if Padme had not died, she would have been an early leader of the rebellion. There's no doubt about that. She would have been helping them. It's like, and that's actually kind of the thing about the Rebel Alliance. They are basically, you know, Padme Amidala's and Bail Organa's legacy from that moment. They were the ones making sure liberty and democracy doesn't die. No, they were the resistance. No, they're more of a rebellion, but they were a resistance to the threat of authoritarianism and totalitarianism and all the other isms you want to talk about. Well, basically 1 plus exercise is complete and utter control over everyone else through whatever means you want. And that is what Padme is kind of getting at there. As I said before, it's that basically, so people in power, with absolute power, are only there because they're allowed to be there. It's a word of warning. Good sci-fi does this. It puts real-world concepts in these fictional settings to hopefully detach us from our personal biases and feelings about certain things in the real world. And by putting them in the sci-fi world, they can comment on it and get us to think about it without being influenced by our own prejudices and biases. And when people talk about Star Wars being too political, they're probably more than anything talking about how how the subtlety in it, how is not there, how Star Wars is not subtle when it gets political. And that's why nobody really talks about the politics in the original trilogy, because it wasn't, I wouldn't say it wasn't unsubtle, but it was fairly subtle and actually fairly acceptable. But there's a lot of Vietnam War parallels, and I just want to say, Bad Vendor, bunch of teddy bears basically going against a bunch of teddy bears and all that. The natives going against the invading force and with heavy weapons, armor, and tanks and air support. Yeah, that sounds like Vietnam, and the rebels and Ewoks are not the Americans. So think about that when you talk about Star Wars being political. Vietnam War commentary right there. So this video has kind of been about politics and Star Wars and that one line. And there's a reason why, and I'll let you guess on that. But sufficient to say, what George Lucas is trying to tell us with that one line by Padme Amidala is this. Is that when democracy and liberty dies, it's not because it was stolen, it's not because it was taken, but it's because it was allowed to be. Now, the applause represents the people in this metaphor. And that's what's so, it's not a subtle one, but it is clearly there what George Lucas is trying to say. And I think I will leave you at that. Just remember, what George Lucas is telling us beside one theme is that when democracy and liberty dies, is because we, the people, allow it. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like. If you didn't, well, there is that dislike button next to it. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel for future content, and check out any of the links in the description. Facebook, Twitter, Discord, Patreon. Help support my channel, please. And a bunch of other stuff down there as well. And if you want to, feel free to comment about what I discussed. I specifically would like to know, did you interpret Padme's line any different than for me? And how do you like politics with Star Wars? Do you like it over easy, well done, medium rare? How do you like it? Let me know. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.